say we've got 650 metres of new approved canal ahead of us, including locks and bridges and lots of other interesting stuff. I've got the old lock 24 behind me. This is a lock we've covered many times. What we're here to see is what's happening. Now this is kind of ready to go behind there. Last time I was here, they were doing a lot of these towpath walls. Now you can see at the moment the towpath the canal's going to be here and it's going to be quite low in the ground here. Now that's to get under Cricket's Lane. If you haven't seen the videos on all of that, I'll put some in the description so you can have a little look at what I've found here before. This towpath here has to go up to a new bridge. Now there was originally the canal was much higher here and went over and there was a humpback bridge ahead of us. That's now not happening, and just on the fields to the left here there's a planning application been approved by Persimmon Homes for some houses, and as part of that they are replacing the old bridge over there. That left the trust with the problem of getting the canal under, so instead of bringing the canal up they got rid of lock 24 and the new lock 24 is going to be a bit further ahead. So let's see what's been happening down here. So last time I was here they had the towpath wall to about here. Now at this point here the canal channel goes over to the right and there's a bit of mooring just on the right hand side there, and this towpath here, this is a temporary path I'm on now, this towpath becomes access up to the road, so it splits off and goes up. This has gone quite far now. This is pretty much up to Cricket's Lane, which is great to see, and that means they can start, once this wall's complete, they can start excavating the canal channel right up to the bridge, ready for when the bridge goes in. You can see all down through there where the wall's up to the height, and they've got also, I can just see in the bricks there, they put another LHCRT lettering in there again. So this will come up to the bridge here, and now this all has planning now. This was announced about 6 weeks ago and includes 650 metres of canal, locks and bridges and all sorts, which we'll get into as we follow up through here. So the canal is going to be about here. Here's going to be a nice sort of large area where there's going to be a bit of mooring in on the side and a waiting wall for the lock, which is going to be just on the other side here. So this whole project will go on to Persimmon's time, which is quite fine. They're paying for this bridge. It's a major cost out of the restoration. It's 7 miles. It's got quite a lot of locks and various other things. So this is expected around 2026, but it doesn't mean they can't get on with the rest of the work. Lock 24 is going to go in here. There's going to be we're going to have the bridge, a slight gap, and then the lock is going to be kind of in between these trees here. I'm not sure they've got an exact date for the lock, but being 2026 on the bridge, it gives them a couple of years for fundraising and works and stuff, as well as, you know, clearing that other side out first. So I'll be in the lock roughly about now. But this section up ahead, there's 650 metres of canal channel going in, and this leads up to the Gallows Wharf section. This first section here will be about 2025. You can see it's quite overgrown at the moment. That's quite usual, to be honest with you. The Lichfield and Huddlesford Canal Restoration Trust are quite environmentally focused, so there's no need to trim all of this back and ruin sort of habitat when they don't need to. Obviously when the channel's in and it's full of water, this will be maintained, but they also will be keeping some wildflower here anyway. If you look on the other side close to the road there, you can see where they planted some trees and whips and stuff. So they're trying to create a screening to the road as well as a bunch of habitat. So many trees like this little one here that will have to be removed are more than replaced on how many they're planting on the banks. You can see where they've raised a bund on that side as well, just to try and separate from the road a little bit more as well. And then that's been planted on the top. And they use the Duke of Edinburgh's quite a lot to do this, and they come down and they do sort of all sorts of bits and pieces, from sort of clearing to planting and all that lot. And it's a good way to get the younger generation involved in canal restoration, and the Lichfield and Huddlesford Canal Restoration Trust are fantastic at that. And if you come to any of their work parties, there's a much lower sort of average age, I'd say, than on a lot of canal restorations. And you've got this little flower bed here, which I guess is going to have to go. This is a narrow canal, not a broad canal, but it doesn't look like there'll be enough room for a channel through here with that still there. And then this leads straight up to the side of the lift bridge. Now the lift bridge is going to go just across here. You can see the chip shop just there. There's now a public footpath that runs through here and across into the housing estate on the left hand side. That wasn't here when the canal was originally here, so this is an extra bridge. They hope the lift bridge is going to be installed before the end of this year potentially, but I know they had WRG groups, which are the Waterway Recovery Groups, national groups that go all over the country doing canal restoration. Always a great bunch of fantastic people, and those are very helpful, very knowledgeable, and they were here to put foundations in, but the planning didn't come through quite quick enough, so they're actually going to be further up, which we'll find in a minute. So without those 2 weeks of work parties, I'm not too sure if that date's going to be slightly behind, but it doesn't really matter because you're delayed till 2026 anyway because of the Cricket's Lane Bridge. And then this is a section up to Gallows Wharf, and this is estimated to be done this winter. They leave that sort of stuff to the winter because you're not going to disturb wildlife. There's no nesting, there's nothing to worry about. I'm not too sure how soon they expect it to be full of water. It would be good to see it in water. They've got plenty of sections in water on this canal, and being quite a nice nature area all the way up through here, it might be quite nice to do it, but they'd have to feed it. Now, you can't see it because of the overgrowth at the moment. There's a big pipe in there, and that takes quite a lot of water down to the bottom of Block 24, and I wonder if they could use that to fill the canal. I'm not sure if they can or if they're allowed to or not. There we go, there it is there, look. But it would be a trickle of water into the canal, which would be enough to probably just keep it topped up. A lot of this has already been done, so despite the planning only just coming through, the walls were already done, and there's sheet piling through here. The sheet piling's got names on, so people have sponsored the sheet piling. The sheet piling you're going to see towards the end of this video that hasn't started yet. They're hoping to be able to do the same, I believe. And this is obviously all stone wharf, so you've got mooring all the way up through here. Not on that side, that's going to be left angled, which means nature can get in and out, which is quite nice. So this is a large section of canal, so by the time you take Lock 24, or old Lock 24 into account as well, and the pound before that, you're talking, at least a kilometre of canal here. So 2, let's say 3 years, due to funding and delays and stuff which always happen, then you're going to have quite a bit more canal in Lichfield, and that's already connected up to the, I think it's Borrowcrop nature area, so there's going to be quite a bit of canal then, stretching basically from the A38 all the way up through to the new developments in Lichfield. And then the land ahead of us, which I've covered on other videos, is due to be handed over by the developers at some point. Basic channel has been dug, but there's quite a few locks to go up through here. This is London Road Bridge here. There's new stairs being put in to go up there, which I assume are on that side to meet the road from the wharf, which is just there, from Gallows Wharf. And then there's going to be a lock just through here. You can see the ground rises, which runs through quite a narrow section into the St John's sections. And then there's maybe 5 locks up there, 4 at least, which take you up through and under a railway as well they need to get through. So all this, although this is quite a lot of work, it's a case of building a few locks. Lichfield are really good at raising money, so I don't doubt they'll be able to do it in quite a good time scale. If they can get the A38 sorted, and a little bit between there and Dartford Lane, and HS2 gets his act together, then I could really see this canal sort of being up to Fosseway Heath, where we're going to go now. In 10 years, I could see it being quite an achievable outcome. It's one of the more exciting restorations on the network. The people involved in it are all very enthusiastic about it, like all restorations are, but they just have the momentum, they have the funding, they have all the things that you need to make these things work, and a lot of hard work goes into that. So thank you to everyone involved in Lichfield and Huddlesford Canal Restoration Trust.
Then we have Lock 18 at the end of the Fosseway Heath section. This is a large area of nature area which has been developed by the Trust to provide wetlands and habitat. This has been an ongoing project for the canal for a while now. So up from Lock 18, we have a section which, since recording this video, the WRG groups have spent 2 weeks installing sheet piling. There was 120 sheets recently delivered to the site, ready for the works. And these sheets provide a solid wall to support the bank of the canal, which is important here due to the height and weight of the embankment above. There is an old abandoned railway above which has been turned into another walking route. This should complement the nature area that the Trust has worked so hard on in Fosseway Heath. So the piling is driven into the soil using an excavator, and it has a special attachment which is like a flat base, and they hammer this down and they keep driving it down to the depth that you want it to go to. And then on the next piece you slot it in, and there's basically a male and female joint on these together, and they slide into each other, and they kind of wrap around each other. So when they put the second piece in, they lift it, they feed it into that section, and then they drive down through again. The joint can then be sealed in a variety of ways, from a specialist tape like they used at Dartford Moors, which is a little bit expensive. It's quite an expensive tape, but it is really good at what it does. You can also use a mastic, which they're also using on the Swindon section of the Wilson Barts Canal, which I covered recently. Or you can weld it as well, which is quite a common way to do it, and that's a very cheap way to do it. The problem is with welding is you don't get any flexibility in it at all. It's pretty solid when it does, and that can cause issues with heat and stuff. Once they've done this wall, they then put a threaded bolt through and they connect it to a much smaller piece, which then goes into the bank behind. They drive that into the bank and then they tighten the bolts on the threaded bar and they pull it together, and that acts as an anchor into the bank, and then they backfill in behind the pile, and that will create a nice solid anchor into the bank to hold the whole wall up, and they put quite a few of those in. Then on top they fit like a bumper, and it's the same stuff used on motorway central reservations, which protects any boats from hitting the exposed nut and bolts. Those are obviously cut back as much as possible, but they still stick out a little bit, so this bumper that goes across the front just stops from you scratching the steel on the edge of the boat. Once the piling is finished, the next job is to dig the channel out to where it needs to be, and then to put in a membrane of some sort. Some trusts concrete them in, some trusts drive the piling into a clay base. I believe the Lichfield and Hafton Trust are putting another geotextile in. It'll be Bentham, I'd imagine, which is what they've used up at Darnford Moors, and that is led into the banks, and then it's sealed into the base of the piling, and you kind of got to get it into all the gaps there. There's a lot of gaps, so it's not just a case of sticking it to it. They've got to put a load of stuff over it, and they have these big buckets of goop basically, which is like a green stuff, and it just put loads of it on and just seals it all up. The WRG groups have also worked on the opposite wall to repair brickwork, which leads into the Trust's most recent project of rebuilding the wall, which leads up to the Fosseway Lane Bridge. This was needed to be done because of the weight of the old lockkeeper's cottage just up above, as well as to secure the bank. I think there's some movement of land ownership at some point, so they had to make a suitable towpath to be able to get up to the road.
And if you look down here, you can see it's all Gabion baskets. This has got multiple advantages. So the first thing it is strengthening, obviously. It's supporting that bank. These are really deep, they go quite far back, but they have a massive environmental impact compared to, say, sheet piling or putting a big concrete wall in there. Now if you look at these, they're built into cages and then they're filled with bricks. And now what you can do is behind here put old bricks, so you're recycling all the bricks that you've pulled out you're not going to use, and it saves a lot of stuff going to landfill, the costs of removing it, the environmental damage of removing it with lorries and stuff like that. So they recycle a load of bricks. And then the second thing you've got on here is they're not sort of cemented in, they're just loosely placed in here, nice and tight, but they're loosely placed, and you can see all of these gaps, and all of these gaps allow bugs to move in. You get sort of trapped moisture in their muds and stuff, and they create little habitats in there. So this whole wall here is a massive habitat, and like I say, it goes in quite fast, it goes in quite deep. And it also allows for drainage of the bank up there, so you don't get problems with waterlogging up there and stuff, and allows it to naturally drain down into the canal as it would with a mud bank. So the bridge is going to be just in here. I'm not too sure if any piling's going up there, because that's quite a steep bank there. I think all the piling is happening here. And then on the top here they've got a nice big wide towpath and access so they can get vehicles down here, which will help massively. On the other side of this lane there was a lock, and you can see the outlet for the bypass there, or the bywash. So this bridge doesn't exist, will need to be replaced. And then there's a lock going in the garden just over there. So that's the end of the Lichfield update. There's lots going on as always with the Lichfield Canal. I'll be back in a few more months where we will check to see all the piling work and what's happened down here since. Have a great day.